Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Big West Mafia Show, part of the College Football Mafia. Thank you to our subscribers and to our channel members. You can follow all of our shows at the links down at the bottom and in the description. We have shows coming to you all week, but we thank you so much for being here to join us on Mondays for the Big West Mafia Show, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. I'm your host, Sergeant Pickles, and with me, as always, is the fantastic Becky. Go Huskies. How are you, Becky?
I'm good. I'm good.
Hopefully a week off to recuperate and collect your thoughts with things going on in the college football world.
Yeah, I mean, it just eventually became more things to talk about in the college football world. It's never ending, even in what it was. Are we a preseason? What are we calling this? Off season?
Yeah, they're trying to go for the full NFL, 12 calendar month news cycle where there's something going on at all times. And they're definitely giving us things to talk about in previous years. You'd have the dead time. You'd have spring portal wouldn't really be a big factor. You'd have a dead period in midsummer until fall camp starts, but the train rolls on. And I want to say a quick hello to some of our early people in chat. Got Timothy Green, Big Lubbock stopping in here. I'm sure we'll see more of our the usual suspects as time rolls on. But just off the top of head, do you have anything that's been on your mind, Becky? Because I feel like it's going to be quite a jam-packed show.
Oh, man. You know what? NIL's getting insane. Can we say that out loud? Can we say the quiet part? NIL's getting crazy?
I don't even know if it's the quiet part anymore. NIL makes the world go round, and we will touch on later some developments in NIL that I think could have big impacts for in the specific states which legal things were passed that affect NIL, but I think you'll soon see it nationwide. But Becky, can I share with you my immediate thought this week that brought me great joy?
Yeah.
With the changing of the guard, we see, official information coming out from schools and their new conferences. Finally, at very long last, the duck court is gone. Rejoice, praise be. The horrible Oregon tree court is gone. They have sanded it down to the studs, and if they replace it with something even more gross, it wouldn't surprise me because it's Oregon and they have no taste. But the tree court is gone. Thank you so much.
Well, even Duck fans were like, thank you, it's gone. But, how else are they going to get the Big Ten logo on their court? They have to sand it down.
Yeah, with the amount of money they're giving us, I'd hope it, they'd have some higher standards for artistic license than the Pac-12 did. Pac-12 really just seemed, oh, yeah, it's fine. Anything goes.
Anything goes. But, I mean, that court was... I thought it was cool at the beginning, and then when everybody started, on TV, you couldn't tell where the three-point line was, couldn't see the half-court line. It got so bad so quick. I was like, this is an eyesore.
Yeah. Timothy Green, unfortunately, Oregon had it backwards where they did not change their court every game, and they should have, but they do change their uniforms every game.
You know what? You give Mr. Knight there a chance to die, and he might leave them enough money to get that court that the NBA used for the All-Star game this year.
Yeah.
Give him a chance. Give him a chance, and it'll change every single quarter. Every single quarter in the women's game and every single half in the men's game. You give him a chance.
And along kind of the same lines I saw going on this week, there was some controversy in the comments with this quick tidbit. The Big 12 logo has graced the field at Rice-Eccles. Do I have that right? Am I mixing up stadium names?
Yeah, no, you're good. That's
okay.
Correct.
Our Utah friends were kind of wistful in chat, and I understood the sentiment about the Pac-12 logo being gone and everything, but Big 12 folks, and I kind of understand, they were not happy saying, oh, you should be grateful, you should be thankful, that's a fantastic logo. And just Big 12 people, we love you. They'll enjoy being in the new conference, but understand the Pac-12 gave Utah their big shot. They elevated them to a power conference. It's the same with BYU. They look so fondly at the Big 12 because they finally elevated them to be the power conference that they deserve to be in. So Utah fans, just give them their moment. They'll love being in the Big 12, but don't take it too bad that they are mourning the death of the Pac.
Yeah, I mean, they joined the Power Conference. They went from the Mountain West to the Pac-12, and it took them a few years to kind of get on track, and they really fell in love with the conference. Like, their fans have been nothing but amazing. Nicest fans you'll ever run into. Even like them and Oregon. I will say this: Oregon State fans and Utah fans, the nicest fan bases. It's not close. Like, there's nobody close in the conference. Stanford fans can be a little snobby, and so can Cal fans, but no, they're just the nicest, even when like things like don't go their way. And I was at the UW Utah game where the kicker, UW made the huge comeback and won in the field goal. And as they were all celebrating because they won, and then all of a sudden lost, it was like, oh, they blew like a 3-score lead or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
Absolutely. And we got some more of our friends and some of our channel subscribers drop in. Joaquin Morales, Becky and Sergeant Pickles, you trying to get Elijah Badger from ASU? That is the rumor. The rumor is he's taking a visit up here.
Oh, it's not a rumor.
Still gave us a thumbs up. We appreciate it, Joaquin.
It's not a rumor. He's here. It's on. He posted it on his
he's
Instagram.
Taking a visit, but there's no
right now as we speak.
there's no word on whether or not this is where he'll end up, but he's definitely heavily considered UW. French Scott Schrader, hello, stopping in. And Ryan Willie, we will touch on this again. We kind of mentioned NIL there at the beginning. NIL will ruin college sports. Our friend Eli and I, Ted, stopping by. That court was hideous. Be thankful that you do not have to witness it come to the Big Ten. I have a feeling that was maybe one of the conditions the Big Ten presidents had for Oregon. Half share, you can come in, and you must get rid of your disgusting court.
How great would that have been if that was the truth?
Indeed.
Can we just thank the Big Ten? Can we, you know what? Can we just start that as a rumor and make that the reality? The Big Ten asked them to change the court.
Yeah, in my mind, that was the make or break condition. They must get rid of that court.
We must get rid of it. Everybody watching, that you have to spread this on X/Twitter. Let the world believe that was the case. Let's make it reality.
Yeah. Well, and I said you guys are about to experience Midwest nice. That's the thing is there. For specifically Oregon and Washington, Northwest people, it seems like there are a ton of Midwest converts and family members and vice versa. Like, I can't tell you how many Minnesota license plates I just randomly see in the state of Washington. I think it's because, weather-wise and the big forests and everything, it's somewhat similar. So we'll get used to the Midwest nice. I still can't call it hot dish because I think that's weird, but we'll get along just fine.
No, and I should point out that my mother's side of the family is all from southern Minnesota.
There you go.
So
perfect.
I've experienced Midwest nice my entire life.
You're up there in Golden Gopher country.
Yeah. My grandfather played for the Gophers, so yeah.
There you go. Scott Schrader echoing the sentiment. Utah fans are not happy to be in the Big 12 and calling it a truck stop conference. I've been surprised. I mean, you're going to get a mixed bag. I know that Utah is slotting into the villain role very quickly with the Big 12. I think it was inevitable there was going to be one out of the incoming 4. There was going to be somebody, to kind of stir the pot. And I honestly thought it would be Colorado and Dion, just the boisterous personality. But I think there's a lot of old school love for Colorado being an original Big 12 member. But man, Utah is just like feeling the ire of many schools and definitely from BYU fans.
Now, you know who took this villain role for the Utah fans? Our friend Wild Ute. When he was like, you should move the game and this and that to Las Vegas and not do it always in Kansas City or
and there's definitely the element of BYU finally rises, they're in a power conference and can be on a level footing, and oh no, their dreaded stepbrother comes following them right in, acting like they run the place. So I think the Holy War is going to be must-see TV next year, regardless of the team records.
Yeah, well, I mean, out of the 4 fan bases, the most vocal, of course, would be, Utah. I mean, Colorado fans, they're like Nebraska. Like if Nebraska went back to the Big 12 tomorrow, it'd be like, oh yeah, we remember you guys. Same thing. They remember this, but Arizona State fans are too chill, but Utah fans they're nice. And it's the worst part is they're nice.
Yeah, Big 12 fans, I'm not sure who the other candidates are, but Arizona State is a notorious party school. So if you ever want to go have a good time, go to Phoenix for a game.
Yeah.
So with a little bit more serious tone, I didn't touch on this last week because it was just myself when we were kind of running through chat, but we do have to bring up not only this incident, this is just not just me taking a shot at Oregon, but it's obviously pretty serious news. I felt like we should at least touch on Oregon DB Dalen Austin arrested for a hit and run that resulted in the death of somebody else. It's pretty serious. I mean, we don't want to rush to judgment. Everyone gets a fair trial, hopefully. And, but it's not a good situation to be in that he's implicated in something like this. And, kind of the flip side to that I'm not going to ignore is the Tybo Rogers situation. He's a running back at UW, and he was, I believe he was actually arrested on this. Am I wrong on that, Becky, just recently?
He was arrested at the stadium.
Yeah, Tybo Rogers was practicing with Jed Fish and the staff at UW, and he was arrested at the stadium for alleged rape or sexual assault. It's pretty serious. We like to kind of keep it light and fun here, but it's, we can't ignore these things when they happen. And as much as we love our teams and everything, as fans, we have to call out our own the most. Like, we don't condone anything like that of our own teams. And I'd hope that all of us as college football, as much as we love the game, we got to understand that these are real people in real lives and that we can expect better of these athletes.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll be a little honest. I don't, as a Washington fan, I don't know how Tybo Rogers was allowed to play.
Yeah, there has been some controversy with that because it was under Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, who I still look on very fondly, but under their watch, he did not play during the Pac-12 championship game, but then was still, for some reason, allowed to play against Texas.
And a second person came forward in that time frame. So it's not a good look by the two schools, but like I said, everybody deserves the fair trial.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, the two situations are vastly different. I did see that the kid from Oregon, it's like a weird law that created it as a hit and run. So It may not be I don't think he actually fled, but it's just something that they did. There's a weird law, and maybe an Oregon person can let us know, but there's something to that.
Yeah.
But,
And I think a good point to bring up is we're in a world where these guys, they're essentially high paid employees, and there's serious repercussions for these kind of things financially and for their futures. And I know these are still young kids, but I think that's kind of the lesson to be learned. These guys are throwing all sorts of money left, right, and center at these kids. They're still prone to make mistakes. We all did as younger people, I'm sure, but I think this won't be the last time you hear from this, and hopefully there's just as much accountability from teams across the country when it comes to this.
Yeah, and I do want to say Rory McNamara, I cannot say it.
I believe. Apologies, Rory.
Rory, I'm not going to butcher it. No, it's not that. To boot Tybo is not what we're saying, but he should not have been allowed to play.
No.
At all until things were cleared.
Yeah. You suspend him until it's resolved. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality.
That's the reality. They let him continue to play, and then he was recruited back, and it's okay, a couple of things. The new coaching staff recruited him to come back, and the old coaching staff let him play. So it's kind of a weird situation. It's not, it's a little painful to talk about as not just a fan, but as a woman, it's a little difficult to believe that they would let him do that after two people said he did this. This was so odd about it. Like I said, he was arrested at the stadium. He has been charged. So we can't say he has been charged. No,
very serious. And I don't know how much culpability Fish has, but it's his team and his player, and he needs to kind of have an eye for what's going on. But hopefully that gets resolved in either case. And I'm just glad that it seems like both Oregon, it seems like Dan Lanning did the right thing and suspended the player immediately pending investigation. So I hopefully those situations get resolved. But to lighten the mood a little bit, Joaquin, I'm very sorry. We'll talk about Michael Crow here in a second, but we gotta have a chat about ASU. There has been some shenanigans afoot from our friends in Phoenix. Yeah, my daughter is very unhappy about the ASU situation also. But Jaden Rashada, their presumed starter, has entered the transfer portal, and then we get rumors basically right out of the gate that even a school like Georgia is looking at him. And this to me screams tampering to the highest level. But Becky, what do you see otherwise? Do you think this was all above board by the Bulldogs?
Well, I mean, Matt Rule already came out and said the quiet thing that coaches and people actually send messages to these guys before they're in the portal. So, I mean, it's possible. However, we saw that he entered the portal, and I think like 24 hours, 48 hours later, the sanctions were handed down to Arizona State for all the issues under previous coach Herm Edwards. So I don't know if it's just a weird thing, like within a day or two or whatever, that he knew it was coming. So it's just a weird thing. And then, like, people have pointed out, it's been kind of a little bit of a mass exodus somewhat from Arizona State. But somebody said, I think somebody said that he might not have been the starter this year.
Which would have been surprising to me, because watching him last year, he's an outstanding athlete. And, Arizona State, strangely, I mean, it's pretty common, stereotype with West Coast schools. They can recruit skill players. And that was basically always true at quarterback as well. Even schools that had bad seasons and tough records, you would still see skill at quarterback in outside positions. Yeah. So, I mean, just look at the guy who just won the Heisman. Wasn't thought of particularly highly, but played decently well at ASU, lands at a good team, but was surrounded by better talent and ends up winning the big one. So,
and I mean, like, the knock on him was his teammates didn't like him.
Yeah.
So, and we saw the celebration after he transferred. They were actually happy he left. So, like, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But what we do know is, Herm Edwards and all of those coaches paid the price.
Yeah. I was about to bring that up. The flip side of that punishment.
Yeah.
ASU must vacate all 8 of its 2021 wins and 2 2022 wins. Ironically, Washington and Colorado, for a total of 10 due to participation of players who were impermissibly recruited. And that was all under Herm Edwards. I believe he's been barred from coaching in the NCAA for 3 years. Not that he necessarily would be anyways, but there's going to be some penalties for ASU. I don't believe it's going to impact their future recruiting and NIL, but it's kind of like USC. Like, we all understand they won the games on the field, even though they're not counted in the record books, but it's just a bad look. It's a bad look for players coming in, and especially in a transfer portal. Do you want to go to a school that is seen as breaking the rules all the time? I don't know.
I don't know. And all of that stuff that happened, I remember when Herm Edwards got hired and they were talking about it, like, oh, we're going to run it like an NFL team, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And like within a year, you started hearing like, oh, they're doing stuff wrong and they're doing this. And it was like, he's only been there a season. How can he screw this up so bad? So
Joaquin Morales saying they were hearing Sam was looking like he was beating out Jaden. Entirely possible.
That's what I was hearing.
They recruit skill players, and there's depth at quarterback. And even up here at Washington, I know it sounds insane considering we had Penix and now he's not here, but we got Rodgers out of the SEC, and true freshman Damon Williams is kind of making noise at practice. I don't believe he gets the start, but just the fact that you're seeing flashes from young guys and backups at these schools, I would like to think the coaches are actually giving good, honest competition for starting spots. They're not just relying on big NIL checks. But the flip side of that is exactly what Rashada's situation is. If you've got a guy who's got a big NIL deal and he believes he's going to be the starter, but maybe isn't quite living up to it on the field, he's just going to transfer. He's going to go find his start somewhere else. And it's unfortunate, but I believe it actually benefits some of the other schools who like Boise. Boise got a 5-star from LA that never would have gone there otherwise, in my opinion. So there is some good news for, schools that weren't necessarily fighting for CFP spots. These guys looking for starts, if you can rustle up some NIL money, there's good talent to be had.
Yeah, and I mean Dillingham doesn't come off to me as like the kind of guy who's like, I'm just gonna play a guy because he's here making the money or whatever. Yeah. I last year, I mean, Rashada just beat them out.
Yeah.
Like, but you get a kid who's like motivated, who's like, I'm gonna put in the work, and he's gonna come back the next season, and he got minimum reps, but he's gonna turn around and beat them out. Like, upperclassmen are upperclassmen. That's why they're talented. So.
Yeah. Joaquin here says that he's our resident ASU guy, saying that he believes they've served all their penalties, and a lot of them do have to do with they're not allowed to go out recruiting during certain windows that'll be open to other schools. So it was a relatively light punishment, and it was for basically playing an ineligible player. So
I just love the fact. I just love the fact that they punish the coaches, not the future players, because all these kids are basically gone now, or will be here in the next couple of years. So I'm just glad that they punished the coaches and, like staff and stuff like that, not the actual kids, because losing like a bowl game because your coach is like can't recruit like everybody else is like the worst. I think is the worst thing that anybody can do.
It's definitely, I mean, in situations where players make mistakes, you got to punish them, but you just want the accountability to go where, it deserves to lie. And a lot of times the buck has to stop with the coach. And we've seen in the past coaches sometimes get off scot-free, looking at you, Jim Harbaugh. And, the players inadvertently receive the negative end of it with the coaches kind of, going elsewhere. Urban Meyer comes to mind, who basically jumped ship every time something horrible was coming down the pipe. So
the only place that Urban Meyer left that didn't have an issue was Utah. I think I think he was at a school in Kentucky. I don't think it was Western Kentucky, but he was at the school right before Utah. That's the only time that he was like, oh, everything's fine. And then Florida and Ohio State both had a little bit of issues after he left. So
yeah, absolutely. I apologize. I'm kind of fumbling here on the back end to find the article I was looking for, because we got to get to it. Mr. Neon Dion himself in the Colorado Buffaloes. Holy good gravy, have they been waking waves. They love them some portal season. How about you, Becky? Do you love you some portal season?
Portal season is like NFL free agency. It's so much fun for like a month, and then you're like, okay, this isn't the NFL, so we can't fix these problems. What do we got? Because once the portal closes, you're stuck until next year.
It's been absolutely insane to me, because Dion is basically pushing the limits. He said, okay, NIL and unrestricted transfers are a thing. Awesome. That is how I'm going to build my entire roster. And I don't know if it's been successful, because you had all the, think about Colorado's TV numbers last season. Insane, over the top. They were getting numbers as if they were Notre Dame, Ohio State, or Alabama. They were getting crazy TV.
I think they in numbers.
We had people talking about week 2 and 3, Skip Bayless and Stephen A. and those types. They won a few games. They beat TCU. It's a decent win. And then they're like, they might make the playoff. They might win the Pac-12. And their odds for winning the Pac-12 were like 2nd or 3rd overall. And then you finally saw all the warts on that
reality
team.
hit them in Autzen hard.
And in my mind, they haven't learned one bit. So this is just a short thing, but I'll give you the updated numbers. Yeah, since Tuesday, 10 players. Yeah, including borderline 4 or 5-star type talent. In total, since the start of March, they have had 21 outgoing players and only 4 coming in. That is absolutely unsustainable. I don't care how much Louis you keep flashing around in your freaking Rolexes, Shadur Sanders. Oh, come DM me. You're kind of embarrassing yourself, because if you throw out that kind of thing like, DM, Dion's sons for offense and defense respectively, and you're pulling in these 5 stars, then you look like geniuses. But now you just look like fools, because
desperate.
people don't want to be part of the circus, it seems.
No, you come off desperate when you do that. Like I don't. I mean, there's the whole like there's that like Dion's like Dion Jr. or whatever posted that, or and then you have the quarterback like if you don't want to be here, if you're not here, then you're not good enough to be here. And it's like
it's ridiculous.
Lost a 5-star corner who, by the way, this 5-star corner, he didn't say anything negative about Dion, but he liked every single tweet that was about Dion in a negative light.
Yeah, I definitely,
this is a problem.
It sounded like such sour grapes because Dion in basically direct reference to him leaving was said, "Oh, if you're not here, it's because you're not good enough." And I got a bit of a chuckle out of this, I must admit.
Yeah.
Because the original is if you're not playing here, that means you're no good. And I have to agree with this altered version of the quote a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're playing here, that means you're no good. Well,
I mean, the thing that's getting everybody in the big rumor is that Dion's only doing this to help his kids get to the league. And
I don't know if it's
quite
like, that self-serving,
but it comes off that way like 100%. Yeah. And I don't blame a kid for being like, oh, I don't want to be a part of that. Like it just, you know,
Scott Schrader, Colorado's 20 scholarships available. Good gravy.
Good gravy.
That's unsustainable.
I mean, UW probably has like 15, but you know, we're not going to go there.
Well, it's not like they're pulling in 5-star after 5-star as replacement. You know, they'll get some good guys. There's definitely NIL money that people will throw around. Like ever since Dion's been there,
Dion hasn't improved his O-line. They haven't improved that line. Like, let's just be honest. What can Colorado do to beat teams right now that they couldn't do a year ago? Can they block? Because if they can block, okay, you might have a shot. But you can't stop the run because you don't have any bodies to do it. And you can't block pass rushers. I mean, UCLA feasted. Like, Latu looked like an all-pro, like Hall of Famer out there against that D-line. And they didn't even play the best. Like, Oregon looked like it. They didn't even play Washington, who has 2 rush ends who are going to probably go in the first, 3 rounds, 4 rounds. Like, they didn't do anything. Like, USC looked great against USC's defense looked solid against them for a half, which is
it was hard as Pac-12 fans to watch because we'd watch a decent amount. I watched a decent chunk of their games, and they were on national TV. You'd have people on Monday saying, "Oh, Shadur and Travis Hunter should be up for the Heisman." I'm like,
they should.
Did you watch the game? Because they're excellent players.
They're great. They're really good players.
Oh, well, if Shadur had this guy and this guy, he would be the Heisman winner. Stop. Don't play that game.
No, don't.
It's ridiculous.
You know what? If I put him behind UW's offensive line last year, he probably wins the Heisman. But
Tony Wilashon was asking what's going on at Clemson. Lots of players are no coming in. It's Colorado-like, and
no,
the scuttlebutt is that the rumor is that Dabo just does not like the portal and doesn't believe in it.
It's not a rumor. He's flat out said he hates the portal. He doesn't use the portal. So, as Clemson fans will tell you, we're going to lose guys, but we're not going to get anybody. He's going to recruit. He's going to go out and find high school kids to fill those scholarships.
Yeah, I think some guys are finding hesitancy to adjust, and then others are maybe like Dion, they're going way too far into it. There's going to have to be a healthy balance struck somewhere, and I don't think we've quite seen what that is.
Yeah. I mean, you either adapt with the system or you're going to get left behind, and Clemson's on the verge of being left behind. Just to be honest, if the ACC collapses right now, they go to the SEC or the Big Ten, you don't have a conference that you can just sit in and not do anything in the portal. You will quickly become Vanderbilt. Like, you don't want that. You have Vanderbilt uses the portal. So you don't want to have a situation where you go from, oh yeah, we're making the playoff, and everybody's like, well, yeah, because you're in the ACC. Yeah, you got a great team. You just had to beat Alabama the one time or whatever. Now all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, we're not using the portal. You're going to get left behind because everybody else is using that portal, and everybody else can recruit at a high level.
Yeah, now everybody's looking to the portal to add a little bit, but the good teams are doing it to really address weaknesses, but you're not using the portal to really build out your team. I assume Dion will jump at the first NFL opportunity from Illini Ted. Either that or a team like Texas A&M, someone will pay him big money, even though he hasn't necessarily accomplished. He'd be great at Miami.
Be great there. Yeah, I mean, he's getting paid like $5 million a year at Colorado, something like that. Like, if the job is a better job, he's going to jump. But guaranteed that if, like, say, the Carolina Panthers came a calling, and I'm using them as an example because they fire their coaches like most people change underwear. Because that owner's terrible. But if they came calling and they had and they were going to draft his kid, he'd go like tomorrow, and he's going to get paid $10 million a year because NFL coaches get paid about $10 million a year.
Yeah, and kind of moving on to some other administrative notes. I just honestly, I've heard so much about Dion. I feel like we keep running ourselves silly saying the same things. But I also saw this. So Arizona's president, or excuse me, who is it that just announced they were going to retire recently? Was it wasn't Michael Crow or Kirk Schultz at Wazoo? Apologies on that. Yeah, so that current out of the previous Pac-12 schools, that leaves Arizona, UCLA, Colorado, Stanford, Cal, Wazoo, and John Wilner, who love him or hate him, he does have inside connected sources. Anna Marie Kelsey, Carol Folt, and Michael Crow. So the three there at the bottom, he expects UW, USC, and Arizona State to also need presidents in the next 2 to 3 years. That's like every major West Coast school needs high-end administrators at a time when they're changing conferences. That is extremely scary for me, specifically as a UW fan. But I don't know what your thoughts are. Do you think we are at risk of falling behind in terms of top-end leadership that can make good decisions?
No, because I mean, like a couple of years. It's like if Kelsey announced tomorrow that she was leaving, I'd be like, okay, new AD, new president. That might be like, that would be worrisome. I'm not worried about it. It's not a situation like Stanford had to. People don't know. Stanford fired. Well, essentially, he resigned. But he was probably going to get fired after the student newspaper found that he had lied in some of his research papers that he had filed and done over the years. So, like, he had plagiarized and all that stuff. So, like, totally don't expect it. But UCLA, we knew that was coming because UCLA president had been there forever. I think he was the last one left that hired the previous conference commissioner. What's his name? Like I just drew a blank.
The commissioner? Yeah. Playoff Cop or Larry Scott?
Scott. Yeah, he's the last one that hired Scott. Like he was the last one there because all the others had gone. Kelsey took over after Emmert left, who had hired Scott. So no, it doesn't shock me that they're all leaving. They're, like I said, they've all been there for like 10 years. And
it's a chain of poor leadership, but the school presidents have done a good job keeping their their schools relevant. And credit to Anna Marie Kelsey. She pulled the trigger on UW to the Big Ten. She had the final call, and I expected her to totally fumble it, and she did not. So I have thanks to give her for that. But on the same token, she allowed Larry Scott to do what he did.
Well, she did. And then, like Schultz came in at the very end of Scott's tenure from Kansas State. So, like, they're all doing their thing. And people don't know Schultz had hired somebody to essentially, he wanted to become the chancellor of the Washington State system. And it was pretty much denied. So we'll see how that goes because I think the governor is the only one that can say yes or no to that.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't feeling it. But when he does retire officially, the governor will pick the replacement. But for me, if I'm a Wazoo fan, that's the most scary aspect is we just lost our AD. Now we're losing our president. And it's like at a time where literally you need him to guide you into what you don't have a conference after 2025. Like you're going to get 2025 on August 1st, 2026, you have no conference. everything has to be figured out. And this guy is just now leaving, which I can tell you, a lot of the boosters, it caught a lot of these people off guard. There was a lot of very unhappy people with money that donate to the Washington State athletic program that are like, this is not cool. Like it caught him, and it's got him pretty mad, which again, I would be pretty mad.
Scott Schrader, our friend here, he's a Husker fan, as you can imagine. You can have our AD.
You can have
honestly, him. He did not want to. I have no ill feelings against him.
I can tell you some things I've heard.
He didn't keep DeBoer, and he didn't want to be here. So
yeah, I can tell you guys some things that I heard. The school pretty much didn't care. Kelsey cared because she was on a flight with him, and he didn't say a word to her. But that's more of a personal, like, hey, give me a professional heads up here. We're on a flight from Palm Springs. But I can tell you that most of the athletic department pretty much applauded him leaving. He does not work well with others, is what people said. There was a situation where he had authorized something but told nobody, so everybody looked like fools when they had to go find him to like verify it, and he does that stuff on the fly. So
and then the knock on from that is we took Wazoo's AD. It is what it is. So
it is what it is.
And Ted asking about I did not watch the FSU court proceedings today. We were definitely going to touch on it. Just our general summation. Our friend Doug Rohan, if you don't follow Doug Rohan, his tweets are outstanding for legal breakdown. But we will touch on that as to the best of our knowledge a little bit later on. But I wanted to pivot real quick to the Pac-2 counterpart of our good friends, the Washington State Cougars, because they made some interesting scheduling choices going forward, and there have been a lot of scuttlebutt. Are they preemptively planning future conference games? What is your opinion on that, Becky? Are they trying to endear themselves to their future conference?
No. This is just Oregon State trying to figure out, who can we schedule. I think even Washington has the games, has some non-conference stuff slated for those years. But yeah, they had to figure out 2025, 2026. Somebody, I can't remember who it was. Somebody dropped them a little while back, and they've just been working on it. Houston, UW was talking about scheduling Houston last year after Ohio State dropped them from their schedule. So Washington, Houston's been trying to find scheduling mates for a good while on some stuff.
It definitely feels like they are kind of have a lingering G5 perception about them, that they haven't really quite fully taken the step. They had a tough season, but honestly, Kansas State's a solid program, and I know that teams change over time, but it is a smart move regardless of where they end up for the Beavs to schedule power opponents and try and keep that perception. It's like when Boise, their non-conference, when they were really good, was insane. They would play some really good teams to boost their non-conference.
Yeah, you have to boost it. I think playing, you have to play the Power 5 schools no matter what. You want to have those. And there's there's levels to the G5. And unfortunately, we can now say, nobody heard the news, they're no longer a part of the, quote, autonomy.
That was my exact next item that I was getting to with the Power 2.
They lost it today. So at this point, but they're still at the top of those schools. This is absolutely painful to read, that essentially the Pac-12 is no longer an autonomous FBS.
Just reading it. I'll just read it out here direct from Nicole Auerbach, her tweet online today. And this was as of 2/29. So this is really recently. It's 2/29 Pacific. NCAA Board of Directors officially moved Pac-12 from an autonomy FBS conference to a non-autonomy conference. And that's basically what we would refer to as Power 5, which is autonomous, versus G5 non-autonomous. So this is relegation of sorts. I understand that there's certain things that they were given a 2-year window to rebuild the pack, but they obviously have the authority to essentially relegate them to a G5. And unfortunately, I don't see a path forward where they can add enough teams to be voted into autonomy again. As of effective today, but as of August 1st, literally, we are at a Power 4 and a G6.
Yeah. And I do want to put out Scott Schroeder is asking Washington State has any big games like an Ohio State or something like that. Like Oklahoma State. No, but
they played Wisconsin back to back last 2 years, so they do.
But they have
opponents.
And I'll give you this: they're playing Washington. That's pretty much a guarantee. They have to play Washington. That's like, I think like the governor has already basically said I might force you guys to do this, so they scheduled it. But
yeah, Apple Cup will go for at least I believe it's the next 6 years they have on the books.
Correct.
It'll go indefinitely.
Yeah, and like they have Texas Tech next year. That was how they work. That's how Oregon was able to work out the Civil War. Well, I don't know what they call it anymore. Platypus Cup. That's what I like to call it. But they have like Texas Tech next year. But then they also in the future they have Kansas State, Kansas, Mississippi State, and again Texas Tech in like 2032. So it's going to be like 8 years in between playing Texas Tech. Texas Tech goes to Pullman next year, and then 8 years from now, they go to Texas Tech. So who knows if that game will even happen in Lubbock? But no, they have some pretty big games scheduled. They have SEC and Big 12, and obviously Washington is like always probably going to be on their schedule.
Yeah, and if you wanted a little bit of laugh to go along with it today, this was from a few days before. They obviously got the vote just today. But one of our good Beav friends, Beaver Swag, says when the Pac-10 schools come back, here's the media deal share. The OSU, Wazoo get a full share, Utah 4/5, ASU half, UCLA a third, Oregon a third, Washington a third, USC a fourth, Cal a fifth, and Stanford a fifth. Colorado, you never belonged here. So I understand this is satire, but it's just a laundry list of funny. How they feel about each school that abandoned them.
Yeah, I mean they hate us. I get it. They hate Oregon. Get it. They really do blame, and
they do
rightfully be so. Washington and Oregon were the reason why the conference collapsed, because everybody knew that once UCLA and USC left, they had to stay. But I do know that they've had some conversations with another conference, and I do know another conference is potentially having another conversation with them here in the future. But where those go, I don't know. You got to kind of wait. Yeah. I think at this point, nobody's making a move.
They would be foolish not to be exploring every single possibility that's open for them.
And I do know for a fact, like I said, I know for a fact they hadn't heard from him in like 7 months at one point. They were just basically told, no, stop calling us. But no, nothing's probably going to happen until FSU's Mulligan is heard, because that's what it got. They got a Mulligan today. For anybody who didn't hear that, the case was dismissed, but they gave the ability to refile. I don't know how that works. I'm not a lawyer, so. Yeah.
Our friend Tony saying Colorado leaving was the end of the pack. The pack
started
without Colorado would have carried on, but there was nothing left to salvage because they had passed up the only viable media deal long before that.
Yeah, and the ASU president said it outright. He said we had a viable deal until we didn't, and then he said 2 schools left and we no longer had a deal. And then eventually in his next comments he was like, Washington and Oregon left, we no longer had a deal, Apple pulled it. So
yeah. And we want to thank all of our members here in chat. We do read any and all super chats. Our only caveat is they must not violate YouTube terms of service. However,
we can't be trash talk
ourselves, our own teams, rival teams, whatever you like, or you just have any comments you'd like to support the channel, we really appreciate it. To all of our channel members, Wild Ute is still cranking out content left and right, and he still has the members-only Louisville video, and he just did his Notre Dame to the Big Ten breakdown. It's the most obvious in the universe, but how good of a fit is it really? I mean, Ute does excellent breakdowns. And there were some surprising things in there. You just assume that they're an absolute shoo-in for the Big Ten, but perhaps not so. So I would encourage all our members to head over there and check it out. And if you'd like to become a member and get access to these exclusive videos, here's how you can do so.
Want to become a member of the College Football Mafia family? Simply select the Join button from our homepage. There are several options with their own unique benefits to choose from. You can also set yourself to auto-accept gifted membership by selecting the gift settings options as shown.
And thank you so much to all of our members out there in chat. Conundrum giving a nice hearty hello and welcome to Notre Dame, as you would imagine from Big Ten fans.
As newly Big Ten fans, should we hate Notre Dame? Is that what we're supposed to do?
As Washington fans, because we're winless against them all time, we're 0-4. I think we should be, perhaps.
We should be, but I'm like, at the same time, I'm like,
we haven't played them in my lifetime, so it's a hot minute.
No, we played in our lifetime.
Colorado leaving, he was touching on this. Colorado leaving was the trigger of the conference. Could have survived if UW and Oregon were staying. Yeah, that's what you're saying all along. Not that UW and to me, the LA schools leaving assembled the coffin, and UW and Oregon were the final nail. But because they're the final nail, they're looked at as the bad guys and the villains. It's like, no, you already built the coffin and we're lying in it. It just was whether or not you're going to shut the lid. And, it's kind of everyone for themselves at a certain point. It's unfortunate, but we know that that's the reality of college football we live in.
Yeah, and I mean, Colorado triggered the downfall of the conference, but at the same time, like I said, they still had a deal with Apple after Colorado bounced. Apple was like, "Oh yeah, no, we're good." I don't.
Notre Dame scared of a real conference. Goodness gracious.
Oh, conundrum! Wow.
Yeah, a lot of Notre Dame invokes some strong feelings. Notre Dame thinks they are better than you. It just makes me think of the Ben Stiller in Dodgeball. We're better than you, and we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Notre Dame. There's not a ton of new. Maybe that's why we're strange, because you and I, it seems like, have not any particular feelings about Notre Dame. I know USC fans and Stanford fans obviously don't like them, but for West Coast people, Notre Dame is just that one private school that's kind of weird, and they do their own thing out east.
Yeah, I mean, they're like the Midwest Stanford. Can we call them that? Because I know Stanford requires all of their athletes have to meet the actual academic standards of everybody else who goes into the school. And
they are better at football than Stanford, though.
Yeah, but Notre Dame has the same rule. They had the same thing. Like, you have to meet our academic standards in order to get into the school. But everybody else is like, oh, you don't have to do that.
Strictly adhered to in recent years.
I don't know if Notre Dame's followed that, but they are run by the Archdiocese.
That's what they claim.
We'll have to take their word for it this time.
Indeed.
We'll let the USC fans tell us that they're lying about that. So.
And pivoting to a school that, as you would imagine, is no friend of Notre Dame because they have kept them out of the Big Ten several times. We have our national championship foes. The Michigan Wolverines have finally had their penalties handed down from the NCAA. 3 years probation, a fine, recruiting restrictions, 5 current former staff members. Apparently this isn't including all of the Connor Stallion stuff specifically.
No,
this is just for the institutional punishment. I don't know about you. This is a slap on the wrist. This is an absolute joke.
Well, this isn't the Connor Stallions thing at all. This is from them doing their FaceTiming or whatever on their cell phones.
Yeah, and among other things. So. Yeah.
But again, I'm glad that it doesn't actually affect the current players, because it's not their fault that their coaches broke the rules to recruit them. But no, the guy that's behind it is now in Los Angeles in charge of the Chargers. So
yeah, he gets off scot-free, as I said earlier. He really, if he ever came back to college, he'd have to serve his penalties. Why on God's green earth would he ever do that? Jim Harbaugh is pretty much set for life as a head coach, and if for some reason he flamed out in the NFL this time, he would just retire or become a coordinator.
I'm just going to start it now. I want Harbaugh for head coach at Ohio State, just for mowing.
Goodness.
I'm not even talking that Harbaugh, just a Harbaugh.
People like to watch the world burn, and Becky is apparently one of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got our friend Joey Z on this one. Does the Pope even root for Notre Dame?
Sure.
I don't know if he's a college football fan. He probably likes the other football because I think he's Argentinian. But
technically, he's in charge of the school. He actually is. Yes. Technically, I think they answer to the Vatican itself. The school's like run actually and like financed by the Vatican directly, but I don't know all that. I'm guessing right now.
Yeah. Notre Dame has been a perfect big fit for almost a century, and I've been snobbish about joining.
For one time and got voted no.
Yeah, Michigan was very instrumental. Go out to Moen. He's ranted about it before in his famous Moen rants. Michigan basically turned them away at the door and said, yeah, no thanks, Notre Dame. You still made me mad. And Notre Dame apparently never lived it down, which is funny because everyone that was alive for that decision is no longer with us. But the hatred has continued to the modern day where Notre Dame feels slighted and the rest of the Big Ten thinks they're snobs and nothing good is going to come from it.
Yeah, we should probably also mention that Michigan said no because they were connected to the Catholic Church.
As the Pope roots for
Boston
College, he's a Jesuit. Okay,
so that would mean the Pope is probably a Gonzaga basketball fan because they're Jesuits. Shoot.
Yeah. Oh goodness. Oh, so this one we've seen other bills passing around the country. We kind of talked about NIL earlier. Our friend Ryan Willie said it's ruining college football. Yes and no, but Mississippi signs a bill into law that's eerily similar to the one from Virginia that essentially allows schools to directly pay players from their NIL fund. No more middleman, no more collective. They just round up the money and dish it to players. It is essentially a salary. It's unrestricted payments to players. And to me, it's not sustainable because you don't have any kind of contracts. You don't have any kind of regulation on it whatsoever. And I know there's always going to be haves and have-nots, but this is another level.
Well, technically they do sign contracts when they do their NIL. The issue now is the best thing for the kids is they can actually have somebody read the stupid contract, because we keep hearing these horror stories of NFL guys who accidentally signed over like a quarter of their wages for life from the NFL. Like, It turns out it was more of a loan and not an actual NIL deal.
Yeah, and imagine that, colleges and predatory loans.
Yeah, you didn't see that coming. We've all been there. But no, it makes it. I'm fine with it. In my head, I'm fine with it. Like, this isn't Missouri's, which allows high school kids to get paid.
No,
this is, but
no,
this is something that Mississippi had to do probably to make it legal within their state constitution. So
we've even seen similar efforts to be made in states like Oregon and Washington. Like, this is not like drawn on some political lines and stuff. This is just a reality that there are certain legal loopholes that they can't jump through, where these schools are going to basically violate their own laws of their state in order to stay competitive.
Yep.
And possibly the biggest shift we've seen, and this one I never saw coming, FedEx, in an expression of this newfound power of being able to support NIL, is giving $5 million per year to Memphis. Of all schools.
Most of that's going to the basketball
like
teams.
$10 million a year in the top end schools are at like $10 million a year. Memphis is going to have half of that. That is absolutely crazy world we live in.
And again, most of that goes to basketball from what I was reading. But yeah, this is why.
In any case,
this is why Jed Fish talked. This is why UW and Jed Fish and them have openly talked about Amazon, Starbucks, Nordstrom,
Ballmer.
Bringing in Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates, guys like there's reasons for it, and it's this, and this is where we're heading. I mean, Adidas, I think Adidas is right around this, like the top level, the top end, like NIL programs are hard to figure out, but now that the schools are connected to them,
apologies.
You're good. As long as the schools are connected to them, we can now get public records on how much this stuff is worth. We're going to know in a couple of years what these schools are paying out. Like, we're going to get to know. And I think that's the best thing to come out of this. Because I would love to see, like, oh, how much has Alabama spent? And then you're going to be like, oh, they haven't spent a lot.
Yeah.
Or Clemson, oh, you haven't spent a ton. What's going on with that? So
it'll be curious because at these public schools, I think they're subject to FOIA requests, whether or not they report it. So now you're paying players directly. It'll be a listed budget item, the same as coaches' salaries, as research spending. You will literally have NIL become a line item on these schools' budgets, and that's pretty insane that we live in that world.
If they get to that point where it's like we have to actually physically pay the players, you're going to see what the school has set aside for salaries. So
yeah, I don't know if this is Memphis's play to try and if what you said is correct, and they're really emphasizing basketball with that.
It is specifically for basketball. They want to become Gonzaga. They want to be what Gonzaga is.
That to me screams, hey, Big 12, notice us. Please take us in the next round. Don't leave us. This is their last good shot to really get into a power conference, I think.
It's not even that. It's literally they want to be what Gonzaga is. They want to be like,
which that's not a bad thing.
So, yeah, and they're like, I think they're a private school. They want to be like, they want to be at least what the Big East is. They want to have that ability to like. I think they really want to be UConn and Gonzaga, who are, constantly like in the chase for titles, and they weren't always a power program. So.
Yeah, you're generating a ton of money without having to field a football team, which is honestly very expensive. It is way easier to generate NIL for a basketball program. And even with the travel and everything, like just committing to playing high-level basketball, it almost seems like it's a better return on your investment if you're a school like that.
Yeah, I mean, we can honestly say, living out here in Washington, that Gonzaga is their players make money hand over fist in NIL.
They do.
It's crazy. So.
Yeah, but you're paying a roster.
That's a small city.
Yeah,
that's a small city like Spokane.
15 instead of 100 on a football team.
Yeah.
Illini said they'd be more like UConn. Correct. Memphis is still. I believe they're doing a full stadium redevelopment also. So it's not like they've abandoned their football program, and they're in the AAC, which is pretty well regarded as the upper end of the G5. They're going to be the ones competing. West. Yeah, them with Oregon State and Washington State are going to be the schools competing for that playoff spot, and that's why if you're Oregon State, Washington State, my Super G5 idea. I believe you really need to explore that while the getting's good. Oh, thank you so much to our friend Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Doing the heavy pivot. Will Seattle and Salt Lake City be top rivals? I assume you certainly mean in the NHL. With
it does. Yeah.
I don't have one of my jerseys handy. I wish I did.
Will they? No.
There you go. Just for you, Tony. I got my very own Kraken jersey. I'll throw up there on screen.
We already have Vegas and we already have Vancouver. I mean, like San Jose is San Jose. I mean, they'll become a rival. Yeah. Like I'm sure, like it'll be a thing where like we want to beat them because they're going to be in the division. But
there's been debate. I've been following this. I'm a big hockey guy, and obviously the season's over, but the playoffs are raging. All of my BYU and Utah friends out there, if you've never watched hockey, number one, you have an ECAHL team, the Utah Grizzlies. It's like minor league. Still awesome to go watch hockey live. It's way better than on TV, in my opinion. But get acquainted. Watch NHL playoffs. I'm a huge college football fan. This is a college football channel. Just on playoffs, I believe NHL is the best playoffs of any sport. It is so exciting. 7-game series from front to back. There's no buys. So you're getting, the 8 seed versus the 1 seed and so on in both sides of the bracket, and they just send it. It's amazing. And if your team is in it, it's about as exciting as it can get. So, to all the people who are going to become fans of the Utah team, hop on board, just follow a team or two throughout the playoffs, watch a few games. But if you just pick a team, let's say you're Utah, I'm going to pick the Rangers, New York Rangers, and I'm just going to follow their journey through the playoffs. The highs and lows are crazy. It's a lot of fun. And Tony, I don't believe they will be in the Pacific Division. However, there has been an idea that to adjusting travel and so on, you will just go Western Conference, Eastern Conference. And we haven't been traditional rivals other than the Jazz and the Sonics in the past, but Salt Lake City is certainly one of the Western teams. I could see the Seattle Kraken really getting after it, but rivalries are built in the playoffs. If they met in a playoff series, all hell would break loose.
Yeah, I'm ask us how much we hate Stars right now because we despise Stars.
Yeah, I despise the Avalanche more. The Kraken had played 2 playoff series last year, and they both went 7 games. It was absolutely insane stuff. We took the defending Stanley Cup champions to 7 and beat Colorado, which was so much fun. And then we took the Stars to 7 games and they beat us. But it's absolute excitement because every game matters. It matters so much.
Wow, I might have to eat crow because I was like, the Kraken are going to probably win a Stanley Cup before Vancouver.
Oh goodness!
God, they suddenly
Vancouver's very good this year.
Like what I was seeing, that's the best thing about hockey.
Our friend Joe, you can probably attest, even though your team lost, how good that Kraken and Avalanche series was last year. That thing went 7 games. It was intense.
That was a good series.
But yeah, Jets handed us our butts last night. I think they hung 7 on it. Was it 7 or more? It was at 7 at one point.
That.
Yeah, but hockey's great. Obviously, college football, if you need something to carry you over through the off season, hockey's great. But I'm really looking forward to Salt Lake City getting an NHL team. And because the season goes on, as soon as the BYU and Utah, as soon as their seasons are done, even if they're in the CFP, you got the back end of the hockey season right into the playoffs. It keeps going, and it's a lot of fun to watch. So thank you so much to everyone for being here. I think that's going to wrap it up for today, and we'll leave you, Becky. What is your final thought to leave us with the evening?
Final thought. I don't think NIL is going to ruin college football. I do think it's going to make it more competitive. I think we've already seen the best thing, which is parity. Because we've seen what parity creates. We've had more teams in the championship than our SEC. We actually had a situation this year where the SEC should have been left out. It wasn't. But, again, we had a non-SEC national champion. So NIL is doing good things. We just have to adjust, and we need rules. I think there needs to be federal rules. I like it. Like I said, I like everything about it. It just makes exciting. Plus now I'm like, oh, UW can go find themselves an offensive line because we need linemen.
I hope so because they desperately need some.
We do because they all left or went pro. So sucks.
All right, awesome, and thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It was a fantastic show tonight. My final thought is going to be a not so hot take, but I've had it for a while. The playoff, it's going to go to 12. It'll eventually go to 16, in my opinion, or 14. We'll love it. It'll be great. It's more exciting games. 8 was perfect.
Yep.
8 was perfect, they totally skipped it, and I will never forgive them for that.
No.
And that, everyone, is my final thought. But thank you so much for being here. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow all of our other shows down below. And from myself and Becky here at the Big West Mafia, have a good night.
Night.